So yeah, that was a great introduction from Lauren about Bournemouth, and uh, I think it's just a testament to the site itself that we're getting two talks on it, because it is a very fascinating site, I think. So my question is going to go one step further and explore what was the ecosystem structure of these Tournaisian uh, of the Tournaisian Burnmouth site. So I'll just start at the beginning. It really comes down to the geology. So um, Bournemouth, the Bournemouth coastal section is actually one of the only few sites known globally, which gives a key insight into something called Romer's Gap. Romer's Gap being this 15 million year hiatus in our record of early tetrapod evolution, and that's those kind of early ancestors that came out of the water and onto dry land. So there's been a lot of work done on Bournemouth in the past few years, part of the Tweed project, which was a large consortium of different academics ranging from paleontologists, micropaleontologists, palynologists, sedimentologists, and they all descended on Bournemouth because, as we know now, there is this fantastic, unique, continuous exposure of 520 meters of the Ballagan Formation. So a recent palynology study involved as part of the Tweed project actually was able to date this section to earliest Tournaisian in age, indicated by the discovery of the Devonian Carboniferous boundary, which I think is quite amazing. So we've got palynological evidence suggesting that this was just right after this end Devonian mass extinction event, the Hindenburg crisis. So I think you could do a talk on the sedimentology of Bournemouth in itself. I think it's very fascinating. But as we know, there is three distinct sub-environments, and these composed of fluvial channels, floodplains, and a range of lakes, ranging from anything from freshwater to hypersaline. And within within the floodplains themselves, there is evidence, as we've heard, of monsoonal conditions, and there's a variety of different fossil soils or paleosols at Bournemouth, and it's actually been so well preserved that some authors have been able to indicate that the seasonal monsoonal climate would have resulted in an annual rainfall between 1,000 and 1,500 millimeters per year. So there's a lot you can go on. I could go on all day about Bournemouth geology. You can actually see at the top, you can actually see in plan view the fluvial channels seen from Google Earth. You can just trace them out. It's so fantastic exposure, and that has led, as we go on now, to the exploration of the question of the fossils themselves. So the fossils at Bournemouth include a diverse assemblage of from a variety of different rock types. So fossils have been found within the lacustrine lake dollstones, the sandy siltstone fascies, and conglomerate lags. And really, it's a testament to the Bournemouth kind of depositional environment that we're having all these excellent fossils, because researchers believe local storm surges, low energy floods, and debris flows within this kind of complex mosaic of sedimentary environments. It was very unlike anything today. I think the closest analog could be like the Florida Everglades, but we were having these local events which are preserving the fossils, which I think is quite amazing as well. Bournemouth, in relation to the fossil taxa, has been used in the past to explore the Lollipop Effect, which is this idea that after a mass extinction, the body sizes of animals decrease. But however, Bournemouth, news discoveries at Bournemouth are now questioning this with the discovery of some large specimens, and primarily thinking of the lungfish. There's some fossil lungfish at Burnmouth reaching up to 3 meters long. So these guys were quite big. So perhaps it's not a simple Lollipop effect as we've thought in the past. And I think what's so important about Burnmouth is it's been proposed as the fauna at Burnmouth is showing a freshwater radiation and diversification after this extinction event. And what you're having is that after this Endevonian extinction, these new freshwater habitats have opened up, and a range of different invertebrates, mollusks and ostracods, for example, have invaded these new habitats, and then the fish that lived in these waters have now also that's caused them to evolve new ways of feeding. And it's actually, we see some of the earliest evidence of something called druophagy in some fish like lungfish, and that just means that their teeth are adapted for a more generalized diet. So big evolutionary questions being posed at this Scottish fossil site, which is really cool. So the main kind of question, that's just the background, but the main question I'm kind of going for was the ecosystem structure. So the Bennett and others in 2018 constructed this lovely figure in the centre there of the Ballagan freshwater food web. And as you can see, you can actually see that it's divided into 4 distinct trophic levels. So as you would imagine, the base of the food web contains plants and algae, and then you have first, second and third order consumers. The first order consumers composing mostly of the invertebrates, both marine and terrestrial. Second order consumers consisting of some large scorpions, some eurypterids which lived in the waters, and fish, including lungfish. And then the third order consumers consist of the tetrapods, or early terrestrial ancestors, other kind of spiny sharks and fish, and then you've got the rhizoledonts at the very top of the food chain. So this is a very great graph, but it has some issues which I'd like to discuss, and it really goes about how it was made, and there's potential for bias, and the preservation of the Burnmouth fossils, as we now know, is due to these local storm surges and floods. And that's a really good way to mix up fossils, bringing terrestrial fossils into lake environments, bringing marine fossils into lake environments. We're getting a mixing. And also, I think what's quite really obvious here is that the tetrapods and the rhizoledonts are, the evidence suggesting their trophic position is indirect. So we don't have any direct evidence of their placement, which I think is quite profound if we're thinking about, obviously, this key interval in evolution. So I've kind of came up with some proposed ideas of how we could go about answering these questions and filling these research gaps. So the first hypothesis would be that the Burnmouth fossils include lots of micro CT scans of these early tetrapods. And various authors have suggested that the tetrapods would, as we've discussed already, would have been living on the land and predating on millipedes, for example. But this hypothesis has never been tested, which is just been assumed. So what potentially we could do with the micro CT scans is undertake something called a dental topography analysis. So what that consists of is you isolate a tooth, you can see there, circled in red. You crop the tooth, you then smooth the tooth and then insert it into a software like Morphospace, not Morphospace, sorry, is it Mesh Lab, I think. And you can do things about the relief of the tooth and was the tooth worn through age. And that can give you a kind of rough determination of was the animal predating on hard or soft-bodied foods. But looking into the literature, actually, I don't think this method would actually support the hypothesis that the tetrapods ate millipedes, because the dentition of these tetrapods is very simple and conical-shaped teeth, really for grasping prey. We don't see any of this kind of advanced tooth structure that we see in later tetrapods. And also, last hypothesis there would be to confirm the position of the rhizoledonts. We could employ a very interesting new isotope technique, calcium 44 to calcium 42 ratio. And what that's been shown to be is to show at the trophic level tracer. So you can see in figure 6 that by analysing potentially fish teeth, if you've ever seen a rhizoledont tooth, it's about the size of a banana. Some of these things are huge. And if you focused on looking at, say, the tooth enamel, because tooth enamel has been shown to be resistant to diagenesis. And the study I've cited there actually was looking at Devonian aged material, so that's even predating this, and it's shown potentially a kind of trophic signature. So my final kind of, I anticipate if we were to do this on the Burnmouth Risledont teeth, Risledonts should come towards the end of at the top of the food chain, and we can see this with the ratio of the calcium isotopes. As you go up the food chain, calcium isotope ratio decreases. So I kind of went over there, but I think that just goes to a testimony of how much you can do with Burnmouth. So I'll just stop there and open the floor to any questions.